All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started. Please welcome Board President Lisa Kaufman.
Good afternoon. On behalf of my fellow co-chair of the board of the Commonwealth Institute, Amparo Barret Bravo, it's our pleasure to welcome you to the 12th Annual Top Women-Led Businesses Awards Ceremony and Luncheon. Amparo and I are proud to have the opportunity to lead this important and meaningful organization in our community. Our work wouldn't be possible without an inspiring board. So could the members of our advisory board please just take a moment and stand and be recognized? We're very grateful for our board. Additionally, events like today, as well as the more than 30 content and programming happenings that the Commonwealth Institute annually hosts throughout South Florida, wouldn't happen without the leadership and contributions of our outstanding staff. Lori K. Davis, Executive Director, and Katie Doyle, Programming and Membership Manager. If you guys are in the room, please stand for a moment. And a heartfelt thank you to today's sponsors, headlined by Kaufman Rawson and Wells Fargo, and additionally supported by a number of other companies and individuals whose names you'll be seeing projected on the screens. We're really very grateful. Thank you. So we're so thrilled to welcome you all today. For some of you, this may be the first time you participate in a Commonwealth event, and often this prompts the question of who exactly are we? So let me start with a short overview of how our organization came to be. In 1997, a group of successful women entrepreneurs in Boston got together with the simple idea of making it easier for other women than it was for themselves. As the heads of their own businesses, the opportunity for personal development had not come from inside their own companies, nor from the typical networking organizations locally. So these successful women business leaders created their own group, and it gave it the name Commonwealth. Just like our early American history, with a group of like-minded individual entities coming together for the common good. In this case, with the common objective of sharing experiences and supporting each other's ongoing business success and personal development. The other parallel, they met at our founder's home. Where else? 1 Commonwealth Avenue. The word institute in our name was also purposeful, as the concept was and remains about development and offering substantive content in all of our programming. Fortunately for our community, in 2004, the Commonwealth Institute started its South Florida chapter with the same vision: unleash the potential of women leaders to drive successful businesses and inspire those around them. Which is a perfect segue to today's important event. Today, thanks to the generous support of Kaufman Rawson, you will be hearing the results of our annual survey, where we take the pulse of women leaders from both businesses as well as nonprofit organizations. Through our proprietary research, we learn about some specific concerns of the women leaders in our community, their goals for the coming year, and their advice to others following in their footsteps. Additionally today, we'll hear insights and perspectives from our panel of outstanding women leaders. And this links right back to our mission of providing business and professional women leadership development, high-level networking, and mentoring through our content-rich events and programming. We do have differing options for participation based on your goals. There's a brochure in your swag bag that describes the membership options. Some of our members have recently taken a few moments to share their experiences with TCI on camera. Here's a short clip of some of them describing the general membership experience.
I came to know about the Commonwealth Institute back in 2007. I was working in retail, and most of our senior leadership was women, including our CEO, who was my boss.
I attended some fantastic events. I attended a leadership luncheon where I got to hear Madeleine Albright speak about breaking the glass ceiling.
It's a great way to meet, some very engaging, successful women. So the networking is wonderful.
I think this is a perfect fit for me.
The organization helps women not only reach their potential, but to be successful and to remain successful.
For for emerging women leaders looking to enhance their leadership skills and acquire that next level skills to help them grow into more senior executive roles, we have a specialized program called Strategies for Success. Please join me in welcoming Maureen Mascaro and Lindy Smiley, who will share their experiences with Strategies for Success from both the participant and the sponsoring company perspective.
Two years ago, my employer sponsored my participation in Strategies for Success. The return on that investment was apparent from the very beginning. I excelled in front of my clients and began running projects independently. Using many of the tools I gained in class, I quickly became a reliable revenue producer and a brand ambassador. With new confidence, I better understood my value as a person, and I brought my full, authentic self to work. After weeks of preparation, I met with Matt, our managing director of JLL, to ask for a promotion. I stated my case using the very negotiation skills I had learned through TCI. He not only agreed with my assessment and my terms, but he then became my biggest advocate. He saw the changes firsthand, and he understood my intention to bring this opportunity to others, which we've done. He not only embraced his role, but he set the tone for others to follow. Matt, we joke about how far I lean in, but I hope one day that you can say we lean on each other. Thank you for taking a chance on me, and I hope I make you proud. TCI also recognized my ability to lead and asked me to chair the new Emerging Leaders Committee. We focus on the up-and-coming influencers in our community. We provide them service by engaging them in membership, unique programming, and we foster the relationship building that is essential for people that are seeking rapid growth. Many are here today, actually. In the program, I learned that the process revolves around defining my core values, openly seeking feedback, doing the tough self-analysis, setting goals, and just testing things out. I've learned that it's an ongoing process, and that if you're doing it right, it never ends. Every day is a new opportunity for me to lead my life with intention. My graduating class was full of MBA students, young professionals, entrepreneurs, executives, and everything in between. Our common thread was that we had high potential for reaching our next step in our careers. So, in fact, I'd actually like to go through it again. This room is full of ambitious people who make things happen. Think about someone that you know who is ready for their next chapter. Expose them to this new level of targeted coaching. Empower them by sending them to the next Strategies for Success program. You will be so proud at how much they accomplish. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lindy Smiley, and I'm the head of Human Resources for Starwood Property Trust in Miami Beach. I'd like to take a few minutes and basically give you my hard sell on why I think Strategies for Success is such a wonderful program. By way of background, I joined TCI about 4 years ago. I was part of a forum, and I recently joined the advisory board. About 3 years ago, we started sending women from Starwood to the program, and we've sent 14 to date, and we have another 10 that are registered this fall. So we're really proud of being able to partner with TCI and make up a good portion of their classes. First, I think that the Strategies for Success program is an excellent value for the money that you invest. In just 4 days, women have the opportunity to learn and advance themselves with respect to leadership development. I think there are a few programs in the community that offer such a rich program content in such a short amount of time. And the beauty is that it's not 4 consecutive days, so when it's difficult to get out of the office, you can at least kind of stagger it over a couple months or so. Second, it gives people the opportunity to take time away from the office and get out, re-energize, meet new people. So often we get used to the daily regimen of being in our office, and in fact, we joked at our table today, like we should really get out more often because it's really nice and we put on a dress and everything. So, you know, I think just for that, it gets you out, it gets you meeting new people other than the people that are at the company that you work for, and it just gives you that opportunity to motivate yourself. And I think I'm a big believer in pushing yourself, always pushing yourself to do better and to do more. And I think that Strategies gives you that forum to do so. And finally, I think it creates a buzz within the organization. For example, within Starwood, I mean, we're certainly not very heavily women-dominated. We're in commercial real estate finance, which is predominantly a field that's dominated by men. But I think by sending women to this program, it's twofold. One is that it shows our commitment to women within the organization, and it also allows our women to meet each other internally and get together. You know, I think as a result, like I said before, people went to the program, they talked about the program, and then we had people saying, well, why wasn't I involved? Why wasn't I included? So it really kind of creates that momentum, which I think is great. So I urge you, sign up. I know we don't have a ton of spots left, but please talk to Lori and Katie. I'm sure they would love to have you. Thank you.
The final level of membership I just want to share a little bit with you about is called the Executive Forum, and it's geared for senior level women executives who can benefit from the forum's personal board of directors approach. In small groups of less than 10 women, these groups go deep, both challenging members to be accountable to their goals and providing unconditional support in a safe, trusting environment. Here's a short video from some of our Executive Forum members sharing their experiences.
The Executive Forum membership in particular has been an absolute lifesaver for me.
An opportunity for me to learn so much.
Sharing our stories, sharing what we need professionally.
Once you're there, once you're meeting with such smart people.
I was first a general member and I attended a couple of events and then transitioned quickly to being an Executive Forum member.
I've been in a forum since 2008, which I find to be one of the most powerful things that TCI does.
So how does all this sound? Pretty inspiring, I hope. If you are a TCI member, thank you. And if you're not as of yet, consider joining today. We're offering a $50 discount as an incentive to help motivate you to take that step today. See, there's membership forms on your tables, and there's a table out front to sign up. So I'm done. I'm going to give you a couple of housekeeping points, and then we'll turn the program over. Please silence your cell phones, but do feel free to post photos and thoughts on today's events using the hashtags that are going to be posted on the screens. Please run and buy that raffle ticket before the ticket is announced at the close of the luncheon for that outstanding prize of an Alaska cruise on a luxurious Celebrity Cruises ship. And thank you, Celebrity, for once again providing such a fabulous raffle prize and your ongoing support of the Commonwealth Institute. It's now my pleasure to introduce Doris Nera. She's a wealth advisor and a senior vice president at Wells Fargo Bank, our other generous signature sponsor for today's event, to get our program underway. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for that kind introduction. It is fantastic to see so many of you here with us today. I want to give a brief shout out to my esteemed Wells Fargo colleagues who joined me as well. If you don't mind taking a quick stand, we have also Jeff Haynes in the room, who's a regional managing director for the South Florida region. Couldn't do it without his support. So you and I are on this wonderful planet at one of the most exciting times in women history, according to some of the latest research findings. And for the gentlemen in this room, whether you have or you haven't done for the women in your life, it's no reflection upon you. Now I'm going to briefly share what this could mean to you and how our commitment to advancing women's growth and financial well-being at Wells Fargo is reflected in our sponsorship and this luncheon today. Part of the new findings report that we're living what is being called the golden age of women entrepreneurs. For the first time, the stars have aligned to help produce women who are equipped with inspiration, know-how, and the funding to help them take their businesses to amazing levels. In recent years, the rate of women entrepreneurs has been growing at a percentage at almost double than those of male entrepreneurs. I'm proud to say we have TCI members who are part of this remarkable group. Let's give all of our members a big round of applause for the drive and success. And there's even more good news. Women currently control 27% of the global wealth. That's a good number, compared to reports of only 1% back in the 70s. That's right. And you can also take pride in the fact that women reinvest as much as 90% of their income in their families, compared to men generally only invest about 40% in their families. Furthermore, the interesting part is that women invest more in their communities, leading to expanded financial growth and social opportunities, paying it forward, you might say. For over 17 years, I've been passionate about working with individuals and families to help them navigate through our complex financial environment and to achieve and maintain financial freedom. For the last 11 years, I've been working for Wells Fargo Private Bank. Throughout that time period, it's become clear to me that there's never a straight path to financial freedom, especially for women in our society today. There's often different challenges that they have to face in order to find solutions that are fair, that help them prosper, and at the end of the day provide peace of mind. Because of our commitment to advancing women, Wells Fargo was right behind me to support TCI's extraordinary programming and mission. Wells Fargo's support of TCI is part of the $3.2 million we contributed in South Florida last year to a wide variety of community organizations that benefit families, schools, the arts, and the environment. It has been a wonderful experience for me to engage with the bright and accomplished women of TCI who always strive for more, and I look forward to accomplishing even more together with you in the days and years ahead. And now, I have the pleasure of introducing the moderator for our panel discussion, my friend Janet Altman, who not only is the marketing principal and a partner at Kaufman Rawson, our much appreciated research sponsor, she also serves as the chairwoman of Miami's prestigious Women's Fund, and you'll find her at the forefront of many other groups that support the progress of women in our community. Please join me in a warm welcome for Janet.
Thank you so much, Doris, and thank you to everyone who is here today. My job is to moderate our panel, so I'd like to ask our panelists to come up and join me on the stage. We have Carmen Perez-Carlton, Tina Brown, Hillary Bass, and Kirsten Dolan. And if you'll come up and take a seat up here. I do. Are they on? So one of the greatest things about being a sponsor of this event for Kaufman Rawson is we do the research that is in the Top Women survey report that you have at your chairs. And our four panelists today are some of the top women business leaders in our community. I urge you to take a look at that report when we're done here. But I want to spend some time getting to know our four leaders here who they are and how they became leaders in top businesses in South Florida. So why don't we start at the end with Kirsten. Can you introduce yourself and tell us how you became a business leader?
Absolutely. My name is Kirsten Dolan, and I am the owner, along with my husband, of One Parking. And this journey started about 14 years ago, where it was a small consulting job in West Palm Beach. I lived in New York at the time, and it was really what jettisoned us into opening the company. We finished the consulting report, gave it to the New York owner, and he said, I want you to do this. So with that, One Parking was born. And 14 years later, we have 85 locations in 13 different cities nationwide.
Tina.
Hi, my name is Tina Brown, and I'm the Executive Director of the Overtown Youth Center. And how I became a top business leader, I thought about this question, and when I reflect back, I kind of think I got punked into being a top business leader. I studied accounting in college, and I worked for some corporate organizations and a couple CPA firms. But I've always had a desire to help people, inspire people, and an opportunity presented itself to work for one of the most amazing organizations founded by two amazing individuals, Alonzo and Tracy Morning. And I thought to myself, wow, how cool would it be to actually go back and work in a community that I grew up in? And I was just okay with crunching my numbers and allowing students to see me and know my story of where I came from. But in crunching numbers, I couldn't mind my own business and stay in my own lane, and I wanted to do so much more. And my boss at the time, who is now my friend and my mentor, was like, you're next in line when I leave here. And she ended up leaving the Overtown Youth Center, going to work for another great organization. And the rest is history. She recommended me to become the executive director. And I think the role, my passion for community, for people, for inspiring and empowering, actually helped me to earn this title that I'm so humble to sit before you today as a top business leader in Miami.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. I'm delighted to be here with you all this afternoon. I actually started my career also as an accountant working for Deloitte, and I was there about 8 years. Actually loved it, was one of those few that loved the public accounting world, but left because I wanted to spend more time with my daughter that had just been born. She's here today, Amanda's sitting on one of the tables. I felt like I couldn't balance my world enough. So went to work for FPL, and I thought I would stay there for a few years. Did a number of different jobs running departments, and I was a director of one of the departments, and then I was asked to go to this little subsidiary that we had, this was 2004, that did fiber optic stuff, fiber optic networks, basically, built networks for the likes of Verizon and T-Mobile and Sprint at the time. And being an accountant, I was like, okay, this is gonna be really interesting, like what the heck am I gonna do there? But they promised to bring me back after a year if I could just figure out what we were gonna do with that company. And that was 2004, and I told them I really don't like accounting, I don't wanna do accounting, but I'll do it for a year. And after I did it for a year, actually almost 2 years, they said, you wanna do sales? I said, hell yeah, I'll try doing sales. And so started doing sales and loved it. I never realized that could be so much fun to like do a big deal. That was so much different, so much better than crunching numbers, right? And so did that for a couple of years, and then the president at the time left, and I got the opportunity to run the company. And at first it was a little challenging, just learning everything about building networks and creating and growing. Had an amazing team, set a very fast path for growth, and we became one of the top networks in Florida, then acquired a company in Texas, and then grew it pretty significantly, and last year Nextera asked me to sell the company, and we sold for $1.5 billion, and that's public information. So, thank you. I did, so it should say former president, because I actually decided this was a great time for me to move on and retire, or my husband thinks I'm retiring. So we'll see. Anyways, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So my name is Hillary Bass. I'm co-president of the law firm Greenberg Traurig, and I am president-elect of the American Bar Association. And I'm afraid my story is a little bit more boring than the rest of you. I grew up in Miami, left at high school thinking I'd never come back. Went to school in DC and then lived in New York for a bit. And when it was time to come to law school, the University of Miami offered me a scholarship. And since I was waiting tables to put myself through school, I figured this was a good idea to come home. I then started at Greenberg as a summer associate. So it's the only law firm I've ever worked in. And I'm afraid, I've been told I'm supposed to not say that I've been there more than 25 years, because sort of the point is made. If you're there 25 years, it doesn't matter if it's really 35 years. There's a point at which you just don't want to mention that. But of course, when I started at Greenberg, it was one office, and I think I was the 70th lawyer. It's now 38 offices globally and over 2,000 lawyers. So it's been a very interesting ride.
Excellent. So let's get to know our panelists a little bit more. One of the things that we learn as we read the comments, particularly in the survey, is that some people get some leadership lessons from having leadership experiences when they're very young. And I think that Kirsten has something to tell us about what she learned from her youthful leadership experiences. So let's hear about that.
I started off very young knowing that I wanted to be a leader, but where it really became the most prominent was when I was a resident assistant, an RA, when I was in college. So if you've ever tried to manage a group of 150 co-ed college students, you can imagine. They're breaking free, they're drinking, there's all of this going on. So it was not an easy group to manage. But the thing that taught me from a leadership standpoint was the same philosophy that I have today. I lead as a peer, and I had to lead people within the dorm as a peer, and that's carried with me. That experience has been very prominent in my life.
Excellent, thank you. Now, a lot of people say they have role models that helped them to grow into leadership. Carmen, can you tell us a little bit about a role model that you had?
Sure, there were probably two that come to mind, and both kind of added different elements to life, right? Help you grow in different ways. One I remember was just very direct with feedback, right? And my friends have all heard the red shoe story where I wore red shoes to the office one day. Remember, this was the early 80s, and in conservative public accounting firms, you do not wear red shoes. And so I was told under no uncertain terms, you don't wear red shoes, you moderate, everything. And the initial reaction when you get some type of direct feedback is always a little like, whoa, right? A little emotional, but you learn to accept it and you move on and you grow. The other person is, I saw him recently, he's retired now. He was one of those amazing leaders that was just very sensitive to understanding that everybody in the organization, no matter how big it is, has a valuable role to play. And he was very good about, going through the mailroom and just acknowledging everyone in the mailroom and how are their families and just recognizing the value that they bring. So he really inspired me to become a better leader in that regard.
Fabulous. Yeah, I think a lot of us have had role models in our lives that we think of often, and when we do something that comes from them, it kind of, at least for me, it kind of gives you a nostalgia or a warm feeling about that person, and you think, wow, that person really helped me, and now how am I going to help the next person? There's a lot of talk about that in the comments in the survey as well, about how we're going to help the next generation, and I'm going to ask about that a little bit later. But before we get there, we ask about obstacles in the survey. And a lot of times people have had obstacles in their careers that might have happened whether they were men or women. But it seems like there are some common obstacles that people kind of answer about, and obstacles that occur because we are women trying to become leaders and trying to lead organizations. So, Tina, would you like to tell us about some obstacles that you've encountered?
Sure. Just kind of growing up in an urban community and going off to college and coming back home to work and working in really companies that were very male dominating. As a woman, I've always felt like I've had to, some of my obstacles were really proving myself, proving to others, especially the males that I work with, that my work could be trusted. And that I was just as good, and that I could, be accurate and be meticulous, and do very well for a company. So those were some obstacles in working in accounting firms, and especially as an African American woman, I think that, again, I felt like I've always had to prove myself and work 3 times as hard. And, for me, I just kind of took that as a challenge, gracefully, with a positive attitude, and I just did it. I proved myself, and I gained the respect of my colleagues. I gained the respect of males. I gained the respect of my white counterparts, and, I excelled, and with that, I gained valuable friendships, I gained mentors, and there were people that I worked with that were very direct, and I could appreciate that. So I overcame those obstacles by really just handling all situations with dignity and with grace.
Excellent. Does anyone else have obstacles you'd like to share?
I have to start with a little story to put this into context so that you can understand the type of company I worked for prior to starting my own business. And I was in the car, we were getting ready to drive. I had the chairman and the president in the car, and both males. And we didn't have a lot of women in the company because it's a male-dominated industry. And they said, "We need you to do us a favor." And I said, "Oh, okay, sure, what is it?" And they said, "We need you to talk to one of the general managers that's also a woman, because you're a woman, and talk to her about her hair." This is kind of like the red shoe story. And they said, because woman to woman, that would come across better. And I thought, they know nothing about women. And I said to them, "No, I don't think that's a good idea." Anyway, I didn't end up having that conversation. It wasn't one of my people. But that gives you the context of the type of company that I worked for. And so some of the obstacles that I went through was just because they didn't really know what to do with me. I looked different. This was 30 years ago. Everyone was in their 20s or 30s, and they were all male. I didn't look the part. I didn't sound the part. It just wasn't what they envisioned. They put together a test that they had these different categories, and they said, "We know who the ideal future executives are that are going to lead the company based on this test." And so they tested everyone that was a general manager, regardless of whether or not they thought you had a shot. And I was tested and matched whatever these categories were. And so they came to me and they said, "Oh, you tested great, but we don't believe the test." And it wasn't because they thought that I faked the test. That wasn't it. They just didn't know what to do with me because I didn't look and sound the same as everyone else. So those obstacles are things that have made me what I am today, and really valuable education, working with men and learning from the very good skill sets that men have. So I'm very appreciative now, but it wasn't so much fun when I was going through it.
So one of the questions that we added to the survey a few years ago was about the difference between women leaders and men leaders. And we asked, are women better leaders, are men better leaders, or are they just different? And I'm asking, a group of top women business leaders, and I expected everyone to say, "Oh yeah, we're better leaders." And really what has happened year over year over year is that women are saying, we lead differently. We don't lead better, we lead differently. Some women are saying we're better, but most say we lead differently. And I'd kind of like to hear a little bit about that from Hillary, about women's leadership and how do we lead?
I think the biggest difference between the way men and women lead is women are much more consensus builders. I think it comes from the way we're socialized at a very young age, where all the young girls want to be in a circle and they all want to play together, where all the guys or boys are on the athletic field all trying to prove they're the best. And the implications of that, I think, when you get into the business world, is that I find that men are much more likely to want to prove they're right. And so when they're in a leadership position, they lead by wanting to convince everybody they're the smartest person in the room and their ideas are the best, and therefore you need to follow them. Where women are much more concerned about wanting to be liked. And the consequence of that is that we make much more of an effort to convince people when we want them to do something that it's either in their own best interests or it's best for the company. But there's a real effort that I think most women make to explaining why what it is they're asking people to do, particularly their employees, makes sense. And I think long-term that creates real loyalty among your employees because they feel like their views of what the company is going to do are being considered, and that you even care whether or not they agree with the path that you're laying down. So I don't think it's better or worse, but I think it's different, and I think there are different implications for operating a company that's based much more on consensus than directive.
Anyone else want to weigh in on that one?
I'll expand. There was a study that was done by Columbia University that with MBA students, they were men and women, and they had all of them take a mathematical test and they gave them the scores. About 3 or 4 months later, they asked them to recall what those scores were. Men and women both exaggerated how their performance was, but the men significantly exaggerated what their performance was. And this is, for all of the ladies in the room, this is a teaching moment. This is something that we need to learn because that skill is invaluable. That is a great asset to have. We kind of make fun of it, but it really is something good to have.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment, which I think in general, again, it's not a better or worse, it's just different. Women are, I think, a lot more intuitive, and so we're a lot more apt to take notice of elements, perhaps, or issues that might be subtleties that might impact decision-making or a strategy setting session or whatever. Whereas a man, I think, perhaps is more focused on just the facts and what the goal is, which is a little bit, Hillary, to what you talked to. I also think, in general, there's some themes having to do with risk-taking, and I think men are more prone to take more risks. Women, I think, for the most part, and I hate generalities, but we're going to generalize here, and I think women are less likely to jump into something. Women are probably more thoughtful about whatever it is that they're proposing or they're doing, and sometimes that's looked upon as not enough of a risk taker.
Well, and that goes to the point you were making, that every study that's looked at this says that if there are 10 criteria for a new job, a man, if he has 5 of them, will put in his application and say, oh, I'm sure I can learn the rest on the job. If a woman has 8, she'll say, well, maybe next year I'll apply when I've figured out how to get experience in the other 2. And it goes to the point of self-confidence and risk-taking. Women are much less likely to presume they can, bullishly get through it and learn on the job, where men will jump in and say, of course, I can do anything.
A final comment, my conclusion, my take on that is that we very much like to be very competent at what we're doing. We're less likely, quote unquote, to wing it, right, and to figure it out as we go, so.
Very interesting. So I'm interested to hear about challenges. And I guess I'm going to go back to Carmen on this one. A challenge that you've recently faced, because I know you've just been through something that is really fascinating to me. And I'd like to hear about the challenge you recently faced and how you handled it and how you feel about it.
So I can probably talk about it now a lot more objectively than I could last year, even a couple of months ago. But so bear in mind, I've been growing this company as if it was my own, or our own, my leadership team. A few of them are here with me today, so the FPL table, thank you guys for being here. So we've been growing this company as if it was our own for the last 12 years, and then I was asked last April to, basically the CEO, who I reported to, called and said, look, I've made the decision to sell the company. So a lot of emotions went into that, as you can imagine. It was like, wow, this is my baby, how can we sell it? Having said all that, strategically, we always talked about there was an exit strategy here, and we all knew that at one point it was going to be sold. The process, though, for me was very emotional, and so I really had to work at separating the emotions from the business and the facts of this company was going to be sold. It was the right thing to do for the company, as well as for the employees. They were now going to be, at NextEra, they were a non-core asset. They were now going to be a very core part of a telecommunications infrastructure company, which was the right thing to do. So I think that the gist of it was just figuring out how to separate the emotions and the attachment to, the baby that we have been growing.
I'm going to ask a follow-up on that one. Figuring out how to separate the emotions. How do you do that?
One day at a time, just keeping focused on the end goal and recognizing that, there were a number of different aspects to this sale. A lot of it had to do with the 300 employees that were part of that company, most of which I had hired, developed, had grown up with me. And so really, working to make sure that they were going to be okay and that they understood the reasons why we were selling and that, the buyer, the ultimate buyer, understood their value. So really just compartmentalizing is perhaps the best way of doing it. This week was all about, negotiations. Next week is all about working with unemployed issues and just compartmentalizing all of the various aspects of the deal.
So I think it's important to recognize the networks that support us, because when I look at the survey data, I see that there are a lot of reasons that people think that they've been successful as leaders, but one theme that goes throughout, and I think it's clear from the loud conversation that we had out in the lobby, the networking that we do is something that we rely on to take us to the next level in a lot of cases. And it's just something that this group seems to do very naturally and with fervor. But I want to ask about how networks have helped you, Tina, to really get to where you are and to be the leader that you are today.
For me, and this is perfect opportunity to talk about, a network that I recently joined 2 years ago, which is the Commonwealth Institute. It really has been an invaluable network of really smart individuals that I can lean on and depend on when I'm trying to navigate issues that I face within my organization. And this network has proven to be extremely valuable because there is a level of confidence that each of us share within the network. I think that when you're a business leader, that there are always challenges that you have that you cannot share amongst your team. And so you need individuals outside of your organization, outside of your inner circle, that you can really call on so they can have an objective opinion and really steer you in the right direction. And so my TCI network has really been, they've really become my family, my go-to professionals that I can lean and depend on for advice, to implement best practices in our organization, to share some of my best practices, to share some of my challenges, some of my obstacles, so that we can all sort of strengthen and lift each other up. And I think networks are just extremely valuable in becoming a leader, in growing, and learning yourself, quite frankly.
Very nice. Anybody else have networks that you rely on that have helped you or that have helped you help others?
Well, a lot of the things that I've chosen to do outside my legal career were driven by meeting exceptionally talented women who were at the epitome of their careers throughout the country. The American Bar Association, for example, put me in contact with women lawyers who were the best in their field, the best in their law firm, and obviously when you're in industries where there are very few women at your level, it's wonderful to have opportunities to network with people like that, that you can, just as Tina said, bounce ideas off of, discuss similar problems you're having, because very often it's very difficult to do that with your peers to the extent that it may sound negative or challenging, and it's not a conversation that you want to have internally.
I would agree with that. So let's talk about strengths as leaders. Does anyone have a particular strength as a leader that you're proud of, something that you kind of rely on, your go-to strength? Strengths as a leader? Carmen?
I guess I'll start. My philosophy was one of a lot of transparency and a lot of openness. And my lead team, my management team would know that I was very, very, very open and very direct about really everything that was going on. I just felt it was important for people to understand. And I was also very specific about the goals that we were about to attain. And, this year it's all about X, and this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to do it, obviously with input, but really being direct and setting that vision, and them knowing that they could trust that I had nothing that they didn't really know or understand.
I'll speak to strengths. I think that a couple of the strengths that I possess is really my ability to weigh and measure and think analytically about every decision that I'm making and how the decisions affect anyone in our organization, from the maintenance staff to senior staff to all of our stakeholders. And I think that, being a great leader, you have to be able to analyze and foresee certain implications. And so I like to weigh, I like to measure, and I like to really analyze and process, from any decision that I'm making about our organization, how it affects, my team, my community. So I think weigh, measure, being very transparent, being very fair are a lot of the strengths that I possess as a leader.
Want to go on strengths?
I would say that the thing I try to do the most is to create a vision of what we're trying to accomplish and to get everyone to buy into that vision and to believe that it's going to benefit them personally as well as the company or the entity. Because I find if you can get consensus on what you're trying to achieve, then you can ask people to make decisions along the way that may not be what they would like to do. If you simply go to them and say, I'm going to not give you a raise next year as much as we had planned, or I know you want to do this, but I'd like you to do that, people react obviously very negatively. But if you can get them to say, we're trying to get the entity to look like this in 5 years, and everybody buys into that, then I think it's easier to convince people to make the tougher decisions along the way, so long as they understand how it fits within the goal that they've adopted as their own. So if you can be on the same page as to what you're trying to accomplish, then you can ask people to make some of the tough decisions along the way that are necessary to get there.
About transparency, but also about sharing the vision.
Yes.
Not just here's where we are, but here's where we want to go. Interesting. So one of the questions that we ask in the survey is, why did you start this business? And I want to ask Kirsten about that because one of the most popular answers is, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And I get that, and I admire it. And I believe that most of the women here who own businesses are entrepreneurs, and they chose it because that's what's inside of them. But I noticed when I was looking at Kirsten's answers, and she said she's an entrepreneur at heart, so I looked at her bio and I saw that she had in fact worked for someone else at earlier in her career, and I wanted her to tell us about how she made the decision, how she recognized that she was an entrepreneur and how she took the steps to get there.
Well, I think I was always an entrepreneur, and because I wanted to do things my way. I didn't really want to listen to someone else. But as I worked for a large organization, one of the things that happened, I gave you some background already on just the environment there, but I lived in Phoenix and I worked in Los Angeles. So I had an apartment in Redondo Beach, and I drove an hour and a half to downtown Los Angeles every day and an hour and a half home, if there was no bomb on the freeway and all of that good stuff that everybody that drives on 95 can relate to. So I would go on the weekends, go back to Phoenix every weekend, and I flew. And I did that for 8 years. And I ruled the region as if it was my own business. And after 8 years, I was at an executive meeting, and someone said to me, well, you're not committed because you don't live in Los Angeles. And that point is when I knew it was time for me to go. I needed to go and do my own thing, because what they saw as a lack of commitment was 8 years of my blood, sweat, and tears of total commitment. And so that was the catalyst to get me going. I think I always knew I needed to run my own business, but that's what made it happen.
Fascinating. So I'm going to ask Tina this question. Your career has been, before this role, primarily in for-profit organizations, and you've worked for companies in many different industries as on the accounting and finance side. And what I want to know and have you share is what you bring from that experience in not only in the accounting piece, but in private industry, in other companies. What do you bring to the nonprofit world that helps you be a leader in your current role?
Sure. So leaving the corporate sector, coming to the nonprofit sector, I think I bring the level of accountability that's oftentimes found in the corporate sector. Discipline, I bring that as well to the nonprofit sector. Very deadline oriented and accustomed to meeting deadlines as an accountant, month end, quarter end, year end, all of that. And so I think that I bring a level of also to a business acumen that oftentimes people in nonprofit, when you talk to, people who work in nonprofit or try to describe nonprofit, people often think of it, it's nonprofit, right? You guys don't really make money, what's the bottom line, and so on and so forth. But in nonprofit, you have to run it exactly as you run a corporate business. A lot of times I've been to a lot of conferences and seminars, and people are accustomed to, oh no, your overhead expenses are too high in nonprofit, or they should be X. But in corporate America, it takes a significant amount of overhead to make the business work. And so I bring that to the nonprofit sector, and I think that I've been truly successful in growing our programs because I can share all of my disciplines with my team, how important it is to be very accountable, how important it is to meet deadlines, how important it is to demonstrate not a dollar bottom line number, but to demonstrate the impact that we have in the community, and how to describe that to our investors, to our stakeholders, to our funders, to our donors, that there is a return on investment there. So I think all of that is what I bring to my organization, and as a result of that, I think I'm developing young people who work with me as leaders, and they'll be able to go and work for a nonprofit, for a for-profit, and be very successful.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. So Carmen, as you're transitioning out of your role, I think about what you have done in your career, and I think you're in a different position than a lot of people in this room. You were leading a subsidiary of a publicly traded company. You were a leader in sort of a combination of male-dominated industries, both energy and telecom. And I think it's probably unusual to be in the situation that you described before, where you had to sell your baby, essentially, the company that you had grown from the start. And I wonder which of these challenges are most telling to you as a professional, and what do you learn from those challenges?
Well, first of all, it was an extremely exhausting year, and so actually I probably grew most in terms of professional development in 2016 as I was going through the deal-making process than I had, for the last 5 years. And I think that removing myself from corporate America now, I spent 35 years in corporate America, I kind of had to do that. And right now, I'm really going to take some time off. And I'm in a position where I'm extremely blessed. I have an amazing family, an amazing husband, and kind of dedicate some time to the personal life and potentially pick up a hobby, which I've never been able to do. Not sure what it will be. But just enjoy some of the different aspects of life. And through that, figure out what do I really want to do. And maybe it's starting a business like Kristen, and maybe it's, I know I want to serve on a couple of the public boards. So really just taking time off to evaluate what my next chapter in life is and what I'm going to write. I'm not sure. So thank you.
Excellent. Hillary, you are the president-elect of the American Bar Association, and that's a really important role in a male-dominated industry. And I wonder if you can share with us a little bit about the obstacles you see ahead and how you're going to take on that role and maybe as a woman do it in a way that will be fulfilling for the organization, for you, and for the women in the profession.
Well, I don't really think of it in terms of being a great woman president. I think of being an extremely competent, effective president. Now, that being said, being a woman does give me certain unique interests. So one project that I'm very engaged in and very excited about comes out of a lot of work I've done on the issue of implicit bias. And what we now know about women in law is that women have been about 50% of law school graduates for over 20 years. In fact, this is the first year that there are more women law school graduates than men. But what we also know is that by age 50, we're less than 25% of the profession. So for years, there's been sort of anecdotal assumptions that women leave the law somewhere between 25 and 35 after about 10 years of practice, when maybe they have their second child or whatever. It's usually always assumed to be a balance question. And what we now know is that recent studies show that women are leaving the profession in droves between their 40s and 50s, just at the point at which one would expect they should be reaching the highest level of success. So one of the things that I will be doing next year is overseeing the first longitudinal study that will really focus on why are senior women deciding to walk away from the practice of law. And this is not just a focus on women choosing to change firm settings, going from large law firms to in-house or large law firms to their own shops. These are women who are simply saying, I've had it, I'm done, I'm out. And this is a real concern because for years we've focused on the fact that there are only 18% of equity partners are women, that there's only a handful of managing shareholders that are women. But one of the reasons that we've discovered that so few of the women are reaching these highest levels is because there's so few of us left. In fact, I have a good friend who is a 60-year-old nationally recognized leader, and she refers to herself as a unicorn. So, we've got a conference scheduled for Harvard in November. We're starting this research as we speak, and it's something that I think can really be potentially really radically change the future of the profession. And if I can pull that off, I will feel like I made an effective and had a great year as president. So more about that later.
Excellent. So the last question, and I'm going to ask everybody for your answer, is, and I'll start with Kirsten, what advice would you give to an ambitious young woman?
I guess the first thing I would say is you are where you're supposed to be to get where you're going. And what I mean by that is everyone out here, I don't know, is there 400 people here? Everyone out here has challenges going on in their life, in their career. You may be asking yourself if you're in the right job. You may not like your boss. You may be going through a divorce. You may have 100 other things that are going on in your life, but you are where you are right now because that's where you're supposed to be to learn to get to the next step. So it's no different than driving a car to get from here to West Palm Beach. You have to go through things to get there. And I think the tendency for women is that we beat ourselves up and we say we should be doing this or we should be doing that. Forget all of that. You are where you're supposed to be to get where you're going. So that'd be my advice.
Tina?
So my advice to an ambitious young woman is to really just allow integrity and passion to drive your success. Check your egos. Do self-checks, self-analysis. Do what you want to do. The sky is the limit. Take risk. And really just achieve whatever it is you desire to achieve by working hard, being a lifelong learner, and connecting yourselves to great networks, learning from everyone that you come in contact with, taking something from them, positive. You may take something good, you may take something bad. The good helps you to become great. The bad helps you to understand what type of leader you don't want to be. So that would be my advice.
So I think Kristen and Tina said it well, and I would just add, very briefly, don't ever underestimate your potential. Like, never underestimate your potential. Don't be afraid to take that next big step, even if you think you're not ready. And finally, just dream big. You can do whatever you want. Don't ever let anybody tell you you can't.
Excellent. I agree with everything that's been said. I'll add two things. One is think about what you want to achieve, not in 20 years. Give yourself a goal of what you want to accomplish in the next 12 months. If you don't know where you want to go, you have no idea how to make the decisions about how you're going to spend every day between now and then. So set goals for yourself, whether it's next week, next month, next year, or 5 years from now. The second thing I would say is don't personalize rejection. Women have a tendency to do this from the time we were, not asked out when we were 16. It's always been about what's wrong with us that somebody else didn't provide this opportunity. And the example I use, my first management position in my law firm was as chair of the Miami litigation group, which was at the time 20 people. And I had to ask my managing partner 3 different times over 3 different years. And each time he said, yeah, of course, I'll consider you. And I went back a year later and had the same conversation, and I did it 3 times. And finally, by the 3rd time, he said, okay, I'm gonna give you a shot. It was really hard for me not to personalize that rejection. And there was a part of me that wanted to never go back and ask again. And if I had done that, and if I'd made it all about what are my inadequacies, why won't he do this, what's wrong, it never would have happened for me. And so I simply focused on, all right, what am I going to do better next year? Do it differently. Talk about other attributes. Make a better case for myself. But I really tried to get past the personalization of the rejection. We're all going to be rejected over our lives. There are always going to be opportunities we tried for, and for whatever reason it didn't happen. Don't make it about you. Set the new goal and say, okay, fine, it didn't happen. This is where I'm going to go now as a result. Because once you set the goal, chances are you'll at least have the chance to get there.
Fabulous. All right. So I want to thank all of our panelists. I think you gave some really good advice, told some great stories, and I learned a lot from you. And let's have one more round of applause for our panelists.
What a fantastic panel. So now we're on to the next fun part of this wonderful luncheon, where I have the honor of introducing you to our top honorees of 2017. And we're going to start out with the top 10 not-for-profit women-led businesses. And if I may ask you to hold your applause till the end, and then once we have them up here, you can give them a round warm of applause and a standing ovation if you'd like. So I'd like to start out with Tina Brown, who we just had up here from Overtown Youth Center. Josie Bacalao, Hispanic Unity of Florida. Nancy Robin, Habitat for Humanity, Broward County. Ellen Okrand, Florence Fuller Child Development Centers. Kim, oh please, yes, please come up on the stage. I'm sorry, I should have made that more clear. Or in front of the stage, if you don't mind lining up. Thank you. Kim Cavendish, Museum of Discovery and Science. Deborah Spiegelman, Miami Children's Museum. Kathleen Cannon, United Way, Broward County. Barbara Weinstein, Family Central, Inc. Christy Mollis, Everglades University. And Sister Linda Bevilacqua, Barry University. Please come on up. Fantastic. I am going to move on to our top 50 women-led businesses for profit now. So if you please join us on the stage as well. I have Nancy Metzger from Metzger and Willard, Tina Zambrana, the Pet Stop Mobile Clinic, Miranda Monahan, MPowerTech, Carol Barth, Sani Chem, Claudia Zacharias, BOC, Danielle Dehuff, CNH Baseball, Jean Gutz, Express Employment Professionals, Kate Boyer, Anatomy, Joyce Velichovsky, JTV Incorporated, Holly McDonald Korth, JW Korth and Company, Peggy Schultz, OG Paint Company, Debbie Savage, Responsive Home Health, Irene Hicks, CO2 Meter, Betsy McGee, ADI Metal, Yvonne Fry, Fry & Associates, Monica Johnson, DMS Aircraft Services, Eileen Rosenzweig, Sir Speedy Sarasota, Angela Haney, HIS Painting, Kate Grayson, Steelgate, Suzette DiMaggio, CSI Specialty Group, Leanne Hoey, Scientific Instruments, Kay Stevenson, Datamax Applied Technologies, Ann Sabak, Health Designs, Sherry Lucky, ABT Solutions, Tanya Meyer, ACE Staffing Unlimited, Linda Watson, Rainmaker, Susan Weiss, Arc Naturals Products for Pets, Wanda Griswold, Griswold Ready Mix Concrete, Sandy King, Symbiont Service Corp, Tina Elmowitz, RBB Communications, Christina Parsons, DAS Group, Sally Hayes, Federal Eastern International, Maureen Shea, Right Management, Ginger Martin, American National Bank, Joanne Forens, JP and Concepts Company, Jennifer Kramer, The Spice Lab, Mary Freeman, Awareness Technology, Jill Steinberg, Intellect Group Professional Services, Adila Gonzalez, Future Force Personal, Kim Sweers, FB Marine Group, Maite Fernandez, Momentum Consulting Corporation, Deborah Herman, Fabric Innovations, Sue Romanos, Career Exchange, Catherine Muth, OR Colon Associates, Christine Franklin, Cherokee Enterprises, Olga Ramudo, Express Travel, Mary Carmichael, DMR Consulting, Kristen Dolan, One Parking, Carmen Perez, FiberNet Direct, and Hillary Bass from Greenberg Traurig. Please give me a warm applause. Yes. And then may I ask Susan Bonner onto the stage, please, to do a raffle. And also, if you'd like an individual picture taken outside by the TCI banner, we have the photographer ready for you then. And the certificates are out there for you as well in a frame. Thank you.
So, photos are happening. We've got this Susan Bonner is on our advisory board, and she's also a senior VP at Celebrity and responsible for this great raffle. So, go ahead, reach in.
Great, thank you, Lori. On behalf of Celebrity Cruises, I have the privilege of pulling the winner of an amazing Alaska vacation.
And drum roll.
And our winner is
Liz Alicia Velez. Liz is also, and this wasn't a fix, she's on our advisory board, so come on up, Liz. So I'm just going to close this out. I know everybody needs to head back to their office. So I feel blessed to be in a room with women and our he's for she's that support, nurture, encourage, and help one another grow. There's no better way to take yourself and your work to the next level than by surrounding yourself with such incredible like-minded women. This events and events leading up today are perfect examples of what the Commonwealth Institute is all about. As I watched and listened to everyone coming together to catch up with fellow members, meet new women, and share stories, I was incredibly inspired, and I hope you were as well. Thank you to our panelists for sharing your journeys on your path to success and your words of wisdom with us. Your insights are a wonderful tool to help us all in our course and our businesses and in our leadership roles. Thank you again to our sponsors, our volunteers, our silent auction, and our raffle donors, and our board for all of your incredible support. Congratulations to the top 50 and the top 10 women. The orchids on the table are for our honorees, for you to take home, and any leftover are available for a $25 donation at the front desk. Please don't forget to check out if you've won a silent auction item at the front desk. Ask me for more information about our executive forums. Register your high potential women for strategies for success. There's only 32 spots and 11 are spoken for. And join TCI within the next 24 hours for $50 off general membership. Thank you all and have a wonderful rest of your day.